Welcome back, Evolvers. My name is Monette, and if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Let's talk. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We are growing every day. Every single day, there's a new subscriber. And you know what? It's so wonderful to watch that happen, that at this point, because the growth is where it's at, we probably could shout out each new subscriber as they come in. Comment below if that's something you would like. I would be happy to accommodate. But I want to get right into the video today. It is about Saturn returns. Now, this is about your second Saturn return. This happens when you're about 58 and a half, going into your early 60s. And if you've watched the first video, I will link that below, but also you can go find that if you don't see it there. I'm going to try to link it though. What you need to know about your second Saturn return is that you have an opportunity to do a life review. Now, we hear about people having midlife crises and having to kind of reevaluate their life and what they want for themselves. And when we're coming to our second Saturn return, we've lived a life and we have made the first adjustment that happened at 28, going into our 30s. And we then look back and say, am I pleased and satisfied with the life that I've created? Now, here's the thing. When we're dealing with that second Saturn return, we are being asked to clean up any messes we might have made. We are being asked to make amends for anything that we might not have gotten right in that last stretch of 28 and a half years. So there's a lot of work that we're being asked to do in a second Saturn return, but mostly it's an assessment. They say, okay, we want you still have a good chunk of life left to live, so we want you to make these adjustments now so that you can be the most optimal. Now, one of the things that has happened here in the media recently to help you understand is Steve Harvey is going through his second Saturn return right in front of all of us. Steve Harvey is 62 years old. That means it started about 58 and a half. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, there's been a lot of things going on with buzz about his show and issues and him moving the show from one side of the country to the other and not being kind to the co-workers and the employees that were on his show. And there's been a lot of chatter just amongst the internet. You know, we love to talk here on the internet about how he's getting karma. What he is getting is an opportunity to reevaluate the way that he has behaved with others in the past. And what he is getting is an opportunity to course correct so that he can live the next part of his life as he moves to his third Saturn return over the next 28 and a half years, should he be so blessed, in order to, what they're asking him to do is to reevaluate and to make amends and to get some things right. And one of the things that I recall from years ago, guys, this is just to help you understand how our Saturn return works. Bernie Mac, you remember the comedian Bernie Mac? He had a lot of opinions about Steve Harvey, and he said a lot of things that rung very true to me. I don't come down on either side. I like Steve. I watch his show, but I'm not like a super fan, and I couldn't tell you too many details about his life. But what I can tell you is that some of the things that Bernie Mac laid out, which were that Steve was lacking in scruples and was climbing essentially to be the mogul we saw him become. I mean, for a while there, if there was a show, Steve was on it. What we saw recently is that after the second Saturn return, he's been let go. And we thought this is impossible because he's made big blunders like the pageant where he pronounced the wrong name or announced the wrong name. And he's never been let go from his jobs. It's kind of a inside joke with him, Nick Cannon, and Ryan Seacrest being some of the hardest working men in Hollywood. So one of the things that you need to understand when that second Saturn return comes is that if you've made a mess of anything, you are going to be asked to check and see how you can fix that. I watched Steve give a conversation recently, a little speech about what's going on. He says, I've written a book and it's 62 chapters and I'm getting ready to turn this next chapter and I'm ready to leave behind the rest of those things that happen. Well, that's a nice spin on it, but what the universe is saying is you have not been kind. There have been things you need to clean up, and that is not the case for all of us. Some of us make the right decision, but his is a perfect example of when we don't listen, when the universe is trying to shift us at the beginning of our Saturn return. See, on the other end of the Saturn return, if we haven't taken heed, the universe still has to get us to evolve. We are always evolving, so the universe still has to get us to that place where we are learning the lessons so that we can grow. And so that's what Steve is in the midst of right now. I'm going to make another video just about his Saturn return because I think it's a really great teaching opportunity about what happens when we don't take heed. But the thing about it is, if Steve were to have course corrected before and started treating people kinder and not being so focused on the material things, which is fine, we all want that. That's part of our humanity. But if he were to have shifted, he might not be experiencing the heavy kind of what feels like rejection from a lot of different entities that he has been in partnership with for the last 7 years. Another thing about that number 7, we'll talk about that too in another video, but that's what's going on in your second Saturn return. Take a look back at your life and say, do I like what I've created? If not, you will shift. A lot of people notice they get divorced or they end up in new relationships at this time, or they find themselves in relationships that are so weird for what they would consider their norm, or a job opportunity comes and they're forced to be out of their comfort zone. The second Saturn return can be a little bit harder because we are more set in our ways. We are more solidified. When we are a younger person, we're still malleable and able to kind of go with the flow. As we get older, that's why that changing is very hard. And that's why you're seeing for Steve some things happening here, because it's hard to get into that new place and to become that new person. But the universe does require it so that we can evolve, getting into our third Saturn return so that we can make our transition to the afterlife. All right, guys, it's been so great to connect with you today. If you have any questions, please leave and comment below. If you're interested in talking to me personally, check out my website below as well. And come back and we'll continue to evolve together.